And here we are again. Today we're going to install or go over a utility that we'll use as a fundamental building block for a lot of stuff for SQL Server to be able to query data from it, update it, and do some other things. I'm starting off by, I created a database here with nothing in it called Z Experiments. Very aptly named, nothing in it yet. So on my wing guy here, I'm going to run through this script right here that I put in a utilities directory, which we'll look at right there. I've created a new, hello, where are you? Root, scripts, Python, utilities, small DB utilities. It's going to leverage off of and be dependent on pyodbc. In order to get this running, I need to install pyodbc first. So I'm going to get it from pip install pyodbc. Can I run that? Is it going to go and tell me it's working? Okay, good. It says I'm also running the older version of pip. I can usually just do that and upgrade pip. Might as well do that since we're here. Okay, well maybe we'll look at that later. Oops, got that at the end. Sorry. Too fast, typing too fast, going too fast. Well, let's let that just go in the background. We don't need that. So what we're going to do is go over each one of these functions in turn from main and see what they do, and be able to use this utility in the future to pull this stuff together to write and read from the database. So I'm just going to put a breakpoint right there. I'm giving it a couple parameters to start off with. Server name, which is not that guy. You did not see that. It's called tester, right? And I think that's right. If I ping tester, I get an IP address. Oh, good. IP6, awesome. And then the database, the schema I'm going to use, and the table name. We're going to start the demo now. I'm going to just walk through it. Go. Haven't run it on this machine yet. It's going to print start demo. I'll probably make this a little bit bigger so we can see what's going on here. And the first thing I'm going to do is list all the ODBC drivers on this machine using the list ODBC driver function. Step into that. I'm going to return things like this. Results are going to have a return code, a message, headers if there are anything, and then a header list and a payload. I'm going to use the pyodbc library and get the drivers. And we can see that in the payload and the return struct, we should have, well, it has nothing. All right. Isn't that awesome? Oh, did I do that wrong? I must have done that wrong because it did list all the drivers there. Let's try that again. Just maybe I didn't follow my own form. Start demo, go in, list all the drivers, result payload. All right, come in here, debug. They're right there. I don't know what I was looking at. Oh, I was looking at return code. I'm so sorry. We want result, which is in locals, not globals. Payload. There you go. Okay, so I'll just step out of there, and this will print all the drivers. These are all the drivers on this machine. As you install stuff, we'll install the Hana driver and probably the ASE driver if I can see it or get it. Anyway, we're going to be using mostly SQL Server to put and get things on. So there's another helper function in here called return just the ODBC drivers. It's going to go through this. It's going to iterate through that same list. It's found it, and it's going to return the name of the ODBC driver. What we can do with that is take the ODBC driver and then build a connection string so we can get to the database. And that's what we're just going to do right now, just substitution, and we're going to print it. So that's our connection string right here. Well, right here. Sorry, right there. And I guess the first thing we're going to do is fail. We're going to fail on this function module. I don't know why I picked to fail. It's got a badly formed SQL. I'm just going to run this. Return. The result code's going to be not false, so I'm going to return saying what happened. It says there's a syntax error in there. Okay, so this is part of the error mechanism. So now we're going to actually create a table to work on. And the create table is this guy right there. I'm going to use my update SQL. I'm just going to ask it to run this create table T-SQL there on that database that doesn't need param list, and we're only doing one statement, so we don't need a fast exe, which we'll describe later. Goes through, creates my result, sets it to true initially. If there's no params, it gives it something, or it copies it over. And it's going to connect to the database. It's going to get a cursor. If my params are 0, it's just going to run it like this. And then it's going to say return code 2. And I'll say those many rows updated. Return result. And I'm right down here. I'm going to print the result is true, and the message back is -1 rows updated. So that means that it was successful. When I come into this guy right now and refresh tables, I'm right clicking to refresh, I should see a table called test me. Ta-da! With nothing in it. So we've successfully contacted this database and made an object. Hooray for us, right? So exciting. So now we're going to fill it with data, and here's just a set of rows, ABC, 1, 2, 3, XYZ, something more interesting. And then there's my template SQL insert. I'm going to now build my data, which I'll pass to it. I don't know if this makes sense yet, but this basically I'm going to put my table name, schema table name, A, B, and C fields, and the values that are going to be some random selection of these guys. So I'm going to do it between 10 and 20 rows I'm going to add, and I'm going to append a random element from the rows list. Who knows how many there'll be. I can just click to that and put a breakpoint right there and get there. Okay, so if I look at data up here in, I'm in global because I'm in main. I can see here's the rows I'm going to put in there. Of course, they're not there yet. You can see that there because I haven't put those in there. I'm going to now call that same update SQL, this time with the SQL statement right there, and then data, which will be a list of rows, basically, list of lists, and this fast execution. There we go. I've come in here and I've got, it's optional variable set to default of true. This is going to go off in pyodbc and allow you to execute many, which means it's basically not going to log on for every row you're going to put in, which is going to make an insert and an update, well, depending on how many rows you have in your parameter list, which are, how many are there. Oops, come back. We can say len param list. Did I do that wrong? Parm list, len parm list. There's 16 rows we're going to insert. And if you have thousands of it, or hundreds of thousands, or even millions, continuously going in and logging in for each row will take a long time. There's some tricks that we're going to go and do later for really big data, because even this will be too slow. But the pyodbc just has this mechanism here. You say fast execute many set to true, and then execute many as the method on the cursor. And there's the SQL, my params are from up there right now. And step over that, run it, and then I have to commit afterwards. And I did it. It's sending a message, and I'm going to not print the message. I'll only print it in this case if it wasn't successful, but that's okay. So come in here, click there. I've got now all the rows that I had just put in. So that's working. So the insert's working. So what we're going to do next is we're going to select from there and then print them off into the standard out here. And it's basically select star from the SQL schema. And I'm going to step into this thing called select data return row list. It's going to just bring me back a list of pyodbc rows based off the SQL. You can put parameters in here too, and I didn't, but we'll have parameters here in a second. I'm going to step in here. And here I have my same return stuff. I'm going to check to make sure that the params exist. There's a tuple list. If it's not, I'm going to make it into a tuple. It's fine here. Again, we're connecting to the source. We're getting a cursor, and now we're going to fetch all off of the SQL statement that we just passed. Okay, now since I don't necessarily know what the fields name are, say I have a star here, sometimes you'll have them named out explicitly. Describe source is an internal function. If it was, set in a class, I'd make this a private function, but since these are all classes anyway, really, right? I mean, even though this is not in a class form, it's just a function, old school. It's going to go through and try to decide what, from the cursor off of this description element of the cursor, what each field name is. And it's going to put it into a list and to a string. I ask if you want brackets or not. If you do, put brackets in. If not, no. This second one here is for, I should probably name these, but I don't. But that's for the delimiter, which is a comma by default. And it's just going to go and it's going to make it, right? Boom, boom. Not so exciting here. We'll just go to here. And then we can say result list. I have a string of A field, B field, C field, or the list of A field, B field, C field. Not too big of a deal, right? I'm going to step out of there. And I'm just going to take the field list and put it into the header list, and then the header string into the header string, and return a result. And then I'm going to say, oh, I succeeded. I'm checking to make sure I succeeded. I'm going to print up basically a nothing line feed, and then I'm going to take the header list and join them and print them out, which I did down here. I'm sorry, a little bit farther down. There's header field, and then here's all the raw row information that's in that database. Okay, so we got data from there. A lot of times I like to have this as text, so I have a function called fixed format row as fixed width string table. I'll just go in this one and print it out. It returns a string that looks like this. I don't know why this isn't scrolling down, but it gives you in a padded equal fixed width distance all the fields that are in the list that you want from the pyodbc return stuff the return result. Now we're going to remove, just to do a delete of ABC 1, 2, 3 again. Say delete from there. Here are the rows that I'm passing, to lists here into rows right there. Got it fast execute many there, so let's just undo that because we've already gone through that. Is it gone? And I print the rows. In this case, it's down there. It says it did it. So if I print the rows again, this time let's just go through this guy. I am actually now telling it, instead of doing the select data row list, I'm pulling the data again. This is describe source. Well, let's just get past there. It just printed the rows again that I, without the ones I just deleted. I told it to use a plus as a delimiter. Did that right there. I thought I had this guy called out by itself somewhere. Let's just go to there. And we'll just go. So I want to go through that function a little bit. Keep running through here. We're going to add a column to this thing. Basically, sometimes I put like a create date or a server name on top of the stuff that comes back from the returned set or list of pyodbc rows from the database. I can't append a list to a pyodbc. So the first thing we're going to do is well, of course we're going to get the row list again. Okay, so now the payload list shows you this line will show you that the elements in the payload row list are a list. After I did the conversion, they were initially a pyodbc. Now they're a list, so now I can concatenate onto the list two fields. I'm calling them fun, time, and next, and then the data for those will be added in high. And that's pretty simple. It's just going through, and it's going to take the header, split them out, depend on what's you want, front or back. If it's front, it puts it in the front. If it's not front, it puts it at the end. You can have it at the end on this one. And it's just going to go and do this guy right there. It's going to take the row add and add it. Or in this case, take the row and add this at the end. And I'm just going to put the breakpoint right there. And we'll run to that. Take the breakpoint off. And I now have a new result that has, let's close that. For the word new result, you can see here in the payload, I've added these guys to the end of the list of lists. Now we're going to go into this format string table because we want to have this print out pretty to the standard out. So I'm going to step into there. Okay, now this guy is going to take basically that return structure we get from the select all the row functions. I'm telling it this time just to take the default delimiter, field delimiter, and row delimiter, and then pad how many pads you want in between each column. It's going to make sure there's a header list. It's pretty fickle if it's not exactly perfect right now because this is my utility and I use it. And not really that hardened, but I like it. And it's going to append each one of these fields, 2, 3, 4, 5, right there. And then it's going to go and with this payload, and it's going to turn it to a string, making it as big as it needs to be depending on the see here we have a length that's larger, so we're sending the field sizes. And that, of course, I don't want to do this 100 times, so I'll just go down to here. The template, this is the template that's basically going to be a template. They're going to format the field guide plus the pad width, which I think is 1, and then format the header list and all that stuff. And it's going to go and build row by row each one of these things. So I'm going to click to here, let that go through that control structure. And it's going to do the same thing for the data, the payload. So we had to format both the column, the header information, and the column. Here, in the example before, you have the header and then the columns. This time we'll have pipes instead of pluses for the delimiter. We're going to come through and print a thing, and then we're just going to print that result string. And there you go. Now what we did there, obviously, is we have the header. We've got the rows all fixed widths, and we've added 2 fields at the end of this guy. The data is still obviously in the database. We deleted some stuff, so that part's gone. And the last thing we're going to do in this demo is just drop the old table. So we'll drop, print the result quote is true, and they're done. And if I come back here, it'll say no such object. And if I refresh tables, it's gone. Okay, so there you have it. We have the first of many utilities that we're going to rely on to build a bunch of little tools that we'll use to play with SAP, with SQL Server, with Windows. Next video is probably going to be some encryption stuff. So anyway, that's what I had to show you here, and that's the utility in Python.